All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the launch webinar for the comic books produced with our global.
Bonjour à tout le monde. Bienvenue ce deuxième atelier qui est le deuxième. Il y en a eu deux sous Global Workshop 2021 en ce qui concerne le renforcement de la capacité à l'échelle mondiale à la coalition internationale des sites de conscience. Je m'appelle GG, je suis responsable des programmes pour l'Afrique, l'Amérique latine, les Caraïbes, le site de conscience. Mais avant de commencer, j'aimerais aussi parcourir quelques aspects techniques. L'atelier sera interprété en arabe, anglais, français et espagnol. Vous pouvez choisir votre langage, la langue que vous voulez, au bas de l'écran. Donc, prenez 2 minutes pour le faire. Si vous avez toute question, assurez-vous d'envoyer un message privé à tech support. C'est toujours mieux d'avoir une réunion dynamique. Essayez de vous donner un nom sur Zoom, y compris votre organisation. Donc, souvenez-vous d'être en sourdine si vous ne parlez pas. Alors, si nous partageons l'écran, utilisez SpeakerView pour que nous puissions nous engager avec l'orateur. Si la connexion n'est pas bonne, essayez de désactiver votre vidéo. Si vous avez des problèmes techniques pendant la réunion, essayez d'atteindre Camilla à travers la boîte à conversation privée. Elle peut vous aider. Aussi, sentez-vous libre d'utiliser la boîte chat pour faire des commentaires, des observations, poser des questions au cours des présentations. Au cours des quelques semaines passées, donc, si vous avez à dire, faites ça sur votre boîte à conversation, boîte chat. Nous sommes toujours actifs sur notre média social. Nous faisons mention, nous partageons des citations aussi pour amplifier la voix de ceux qui parlent, de ceux qui participent dans nos régions. Alors, si vous choisissez de faire la même chose, assurez-vous de faire des tags comme vous les voyez sur cette diapo. Si vous ne voulez pas qu'on vous mentionne sur les médias sociaux, alors faites savoir à Tech, on va respecter.
So just to frame today's training session, all of the networking capacity building opportunities take place under the umbrella of the International Coalition of Sites of Conscience, which is the only network working to activate the power of historic sites, museums, and memory initiatives as agents of social change. It was founded in 1999 by 9 members in 7 countries. And the coalition is now constituted by over 300 members in 65 countries, from Ellis Island in New York to former centers of detainment in Argentina that remember and learn from the transatlantic slave trade in West Africa. And as a network, we support our members in becoming sites of conscience through financial and technical support, networking, joint programs, and training workshops in several other program initiatives. So this year, most of our programmatic work as Sites of Conscience has been centered on tackling discrimination, whether we are talking about discrimination based on race, ethnicity, religious, or faith-based belief. To that end, we have organized 3 global workshops to provide a space for critical analysis on the root causes of today's discrimination and hate violence. And we offered technical and financial support to pilot community projects to turn the knowledge and skills gained through the workshop sessions into action and to generate projects such as the one we're launching today. Violent conflict is often expressed in religious terms, and religious discrimination has been on the rise over the past decade, affected every religious group. From persecution of Rohingya in Myanmar and the Kurds in Iraq to Christians in Syria, Jews in Argentina, Muslims in Nigeria, Europe, and the United States, religious minorities are victims of discrimination on every continent. While religious doctrines, traditions, and norms can be a powerful force in encouraging and justifying discrimination and legitimizing violence, the root causes of faith or religious belief violations or tensions have less to do with theological differences than with economic, social, cultural, political factors, and with how societies memorialize the past. Work carried out by sites of conscience around the world has also shown that in many contexts, religious belief and faith-based actors are playing a positive role in peace building, social cohesion, and conflict prevention by encouraging peaceful coexistence and tolerance, and by influencing transitional justice processes. So to explore these intricacies and identify proactive strategies to address them, from July 27 to July 29, the coalition held Embracing Religious Diversity, which was the second of 3 global workshops under the Global Summit Building Global Capacity for Inclusive Democracies, as I said earlier in this presentation. Following the workshop, 7 sites of conscience were awarded community engagement grants, collectively entitled Inter-Religious Understanding Through Graphic Arts, aiming to build technical capacities at the community level to prompt new understandings of various faith-based beliefs and their role in civic engagement, peace building, social cohesion and truth, justice, and reconciliation initiatives. These sites of conscience received financial and technical support to engage youth and religious faith-based actors in their communities in the development of 2 to 3 comic books and the implementation of community engagement activities pertaining to freedom of faith and religious diversity and inclusion, and strengthening justice processes, particularly truth, just, and reconciliation goals. The work that we'll see now is a result of those projects. And without further ado, I will allow each of our members 5 to 6 minutes to do a brief presentation of their comic books and their process of work, and some of which are still ongoing, as they will share with us. And I'd like to let everybody know that the presentation will be followed by a short Q&A session. So to get started, my page goes, yay. I would like to introduce the 2 comic books developed by le Consortium des Associations de Jeunes pour la Défense des Victimes de Violences en Guinée, known as COJEDEV in Guinea. The 2 projects that we have, the first one is here, is Quitter le terre de nos ancêtres. Sorry, Senator, if I'm not saying it perfectly. So the instrumentalization of youth and religious violence must stop, because respect for freedom of worship is an imperative for the consolidation of peace in the forest region of Guinea. No one has the right to attack places of worship which remain and continue to be revered places of refuge for all communities without distinction of race, sex, and origin. So that's the first comic book. And the second comic book developed by COJEDEV is Tu n'aimais pas mon leader politique, donc tu ne prieras pas dans notre mosque. The management of rumors is an imperative for the preservation of peace, because political manipulation at a distance can lead to the intercommunity and religious violence between citizens who have lived for several decades and who have shared values. So I will call Senator from COJEDEV to talk to us 5 to 6 minutes about the 2 projects. Senator, the floor is yours. Do we have Senator here? Let me just.
Oui, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Oui, bonjour. Oui, bonjour Gege, bonjour.
Yes, good day to Gege. Hello to all the members of International Coalition of the Sites of Conscience, and we say hello as well to all the participants in this webinar. I have the opportunity to present the results of the works that we have had, community engagement of youth as part of the prevention of violence, which is affecting the communities, religions, creeds in the regions of the Forest of Guinea. First of all, in compliance with the frame we have given, we proceeded to the identification of the youth from different communities that are represented in the region of the Forest of Guinea, which is a cosmopolitan region in which you have many beliefs. You have Muslims, you have Christians, and also animists. So we had to identify these 15 youth with a remarkable presence of young girls in that work. Secondly, we have sent mails to the representatives of the communities who live together in that region of the Forest of Guinea, so that these communities may avail to as a person who was going to work with the youth. And thirdly, we also proceeded to the identification of two religious members, an imam and a pastor, so that they could be associated to the design of the comic book, but also regarding the future works that are going to be developed by youth as part of the advocacy, having spaces for dialogues and organizations of days of sensitization in the community and the prevention of violence, which is affecting religion and communities. We receive the total participation of the community. We receive representatives, and we also have the participation of religious members, be it Muslim and Christian. But on the contrary, we did not have the possibility to identify people, the animists, because most of the time people do not want to come out in communities as animists, since these beliefs are not represented even at the level of the Secretariat of Religious Affairs. Guinea being a country which is majority Christian, although animist belief is known, but it is not accepted at the level of Inter-Religious Council. Through the identification of stakeholders, we organized meetings between the youth and also the representatives of communities and religious leaders. We shared about the project. People agreed to participate to the implementation of the activities of the project. And when we went past this phase, as it is suggested in the project, we try to gather the youth around the production of the comic book. But before that, before the production of the comic book, we asked the youth to imagine two possible scenarios which can explain a bit the causes of violences that are affecting the youth in the forest region of Guinea, and to see how to prevent these acts of violence from the experience of the past. So we had two scenarios that we created. The first one was a scenario which was presenting the violence that is affecting a community that is considered as being foreign in the area. As I said during our webinar in the beginning, I said Guinea is a country where you have a lot of waves of immigration. So many people moved through history and have been accepted by indigenous communities with whom they have developed a cohesion and symbiotic relations. Unfortunately, religious came to oppose communities. So the first scenario is a scenario of a religious leader who has been accused of being somebody who is blessing a political leader of his community. So there is an instrumentalization of rumors that is coming from political leaders who use the channel of communication to propagate rumors about youth in order to create what we call violence in these areas for them to get the electorate. So we have most of the time this phenomena that is taking place during the electoral period in countries when we have telephonic calls from political leaders in order to incite the youth of the community to attack the others that they consider of being foreigners. And some of the times these foreigners are chased from the lands because they are considered as foreigners. That is what you can see in front of you. We try to imagine the scenario. We created it with the youth. The messages are being drafted by the youth themselves. That is what we have here in the picture.
Merci, Senator. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much, Senator.
1 second to stop sharing my screen. I apologize to all of you because I had a problem with my interpretation. So now I will start sharing again. All right, perfect. I would like to call Forum pour la Mémoire Vigilante from Rwanda and Burundi to talk about their 5 to 6 minutes about their comic books. I'm just going to read a short summary of both comic books they will be presenting today. Laissez-moi faire mon choisir. Allow me to make my choice. Or I'll read in the sequence that it's here. Le dernier incident, the last incident, a pastor was seen preaching on public place, asking people to convert to his religion. When one of the Muslim leader passed by, he heard that the pastor was calling Muslims to convert into his religion. They started arguing and end up fighting. Religious leaders in the locality meet and condemn both pastor and sheikh for fighting in front of the followers. These two religious leaders later reunite and promise that it's the last religious incident in the place. And the second one is called Laissez-moi faire mon choix. Allow me to make my choice. Young Isa has been going to pray with his father, who forced all members of his family to adopt his religion. Invited by his friend, Isa attended another gathering of a religion different to that of his father. He was then persecuted and forced to leave his family by his father. On his running away from his father, he was bumped by a car and had to spend a long period of time in hospital. And when he got out, he was obliged to walk on crutches for his entire life. In the end, his father confessed and asked forgiveness to Isa, promising to never force anyone in his family ever again to join his religion. So I'd like to call Godefroy to talk to us about the two projects. Godefroy, the floor is yours. 5 to 6 minutes.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me this time. So maybe may you allow me to share a bit of what I prepared, if you can allow me to share.
Would you like to share your screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me stop sharing. Go ahead,
Okay.
Godefroy.
So it says you have deactivated.
Okay, so let me
It
make
should be
you
working now.
Okay, it should be working.
Okay, let me see if I can find it. So could you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So the project has been conducted in the biggest refugee camp in Rwanda that is situated in the eastern province of Rwanda that is called the Mahama camp. So in the beginning, we had to go to the leader of the camp. On the left, this is me, and this is Ferdinand, the legal representative of Forum pour la Mémoire et Vision. So we had to go to talk with the leader of the camp. So he accepted us, and we were able to conduct those two projects in that camp. So what we started, of course, was to select the young artists. So with this, the president of the camp, who is this one in the middle, he was the one to help us choose the young artists who were to implement that project. So he helped us select them, and we were able to select 12 of them. So I have been training them for 2 days on how they can conceive the comic books. So he also he was the one who showed us this room where we can teach them. So these are the young that were being trained for 2 days before they were given the task to design those comic books. So this is a picture of them, of the young artists. So here I had to notice that most of these are school students. So they had to meet only on weekends. So that's why they were not able to finish well their project. But they really made much effort so that I can have something to share to you today. So these are the young now that have been designing those two books, two comics books. Now, training of the religious leaders. So this is the religious leaders that have been selected, and this is we had also to train them about religious tolerance, religious diversity. So there, of course, there are some of the topics they know, but there are some topics they were in need to know, so that they will be implementing what they have learned during the seminar. So after 2 days or so of training them, we were able to give them certificates. So they had to sign on that certificate that they will be the forerunners of religious diversity, of religious tolerance. So before we gave them the certificate, they had to sign on it. So what have they done so far in the community engagement? So I don't know if I can go straight on how they have been doing. So they decided to look on people who have been discriminated, and so that they attend them and assist them. So there was a lady here. This lady has been chased by his husband because they do not share their religion. So he chased them and with her 2 children, and she was living in the street. So these religious leaders, they decided to build her a small house, the house that is behind her. So the Muslim and the Catholics and the other Christians, they decided, those who benefited the training, they decided to build this together with us. Of course, they decided to build a house for this lady. So this lady, she was thanking God, she was thanking those religious leaders that they pulled her out from the street, that she was able to get this little house where she can live. So this was the day where one representative of the religious leaders handed over this small house to that lady, and she was at the same time teaching the people in the suburbs of that lady that they should live in peace. They should not discriminate each other because of religious diversity, that they should be always tolerant one another, and that choosing one religion should really be a freedom for anyone. So this is that is the small house that was built because from the grant that we had received from the coalition. Another thing they decided to do is to pay for life insurance of 5 families. So I did not get the pictures, but they are going to implement that project this week. Another project that is remaining is training the leaders, because as I shared to you, Gege, we were not able to train the chef de quartier in the camp because they were so busy. So we had to train. We will be training this week by Friday other leaders in Muhanga City, so that we can implement what we have accepted to implement in those 2 projects. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Godefroy. Let me share my screen because I'm just quickly going to show your your projects where they are. So from Forum pour la Mémoire Vigilante, this is the last incident, the dernier incident. And I try to bring as many pages because it's longer than this, but I try to bring as many pages as possible from the comic book. And it's quite interesting, and I love the style. It's very beautiful. And also, Laissez-moi choisir is the other comic book. Also, we're bringing some of the pages. That's also quite a long one, so we took some pages out of it, so that everybody gets a little taste of the beautiful projects that you have all developed. Thank you, Godefroy. Oh,
thank you so much. So I had to notice that there are things these young artists did not finish. So they were requesting for a bit of more time so that they can do it well. So that's
okay. Okay. So I'd like to call now Mohammed Indifuna from Justice Access Point in Uganda to talk about his project. I will also read a brief summary of the 2 comic books. So the first is called The Brother's Keeper. The story follows shortly a shootout in the neighborhood in the part of the city with a large Muslim population. It features a Muslim cleric in charge of a madrasa instructing children in a Quranic recitation who was confronted by security personnel accusing him of running a terrorist outfit where children were inducted into terrorism. The arguments of the security personnel revolve around the fact that the instructions are in Arabic, which he can neither read nor understand, And besides, they make a lot of noise, constituting the public nuisance. He grabs the instruction materials from the children and directs that instructions be taught in local dialects and at a lower volume of citation, or else the madras is closed forthwith. The police officer accuses the cleric for radicalizing children and turning them into terrorists. This results into a bitter exchange between him and the cleric. This attracts the attention of the community members, including a human rights defender who cites the legal basis for the protection of freedom of worship. The human rights defender is cheered and applauded by members of the community, and the members of the community stand in solidarity with the cleric and demand the security personnel to leave the madrasa alone. The security personnel retreats, begrudgingly claiming he was only implementing orders from above and is not to blame. The second book that Mohammed will show you, it's a work in progress, and it's called My Right Is Not Your Decision, Respect It. A Muslim female student dressed in hijab is stopped from entering the examination room to sit her examinations on account of her garb and dress code by a teacher who is heard and seen to exhibit Islamophobic attitude. The teacher directs the female student to remove her hijab to demonstrate that she's not carrying smuggled examination materials into the examination room or other items that could threaten the security of other students. The exchange between the teacher and the students draw the attention of other students who argue in solidarity with their fellow students, citing both the moral and legal grounds. The students decide that unless their fellow students are allowed to sit her exam, they would abandon the exams and act as an act of solidarity. The melee attracts the attention of the head teacher, who apologizes on behalf of the school and directs the female student is allowed to sit for her exam. So, Mohammed, I would like to call you to present your project.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, colleagues. Our projects focus on two themes. The first theme, like it has already been explained, focuses on the theme of unfair targeting of Muslims in the counterterrorism operations, and the other is on the theme of discrimination of the Muslim in the provision of social services like education, like health, but in this case we focused on education. Now, to operationalize this project, we had to train the youth based on issues that had been initially crystallized through a consultative process with the religious leaders. Now, like I explained in the last meeting, we had to alter a bit the design to begin with a smaller group of 5 youth, because at that point we did not have the capacity to organize a wider, bigger meeting. But as soon as we were able to do so, the smaller group had already moved some steps. And so they were able to then share what they had brainstormed on and developed with the colleagues in the training to enable them again input and enable the first book to be moving. That's how we have been able to move a little bit faster on the first project. The second is equally progressing because we have the illustrations. What is awaiting is the insertion of the words to give life to the comics that we have already generated. I don't know, but what I can say is that this has been an interesting project in a sense that the youth were excited about it. They went into it with a lot of zeal, and they were fired to make a contribution, both artistically, because aside from the 5 youth that had already begun on the project, 3 others that are artistic joined in, and the others that had been exposed to the training were part of the larger review group. So whatever the smaller group was preparing, they were sharing with the larger group on WhatsApp, and then feedback is gotten. So in this case, the title for the second book which we shared would still need to benefit from the input of the larger group, but we shared at the point when the smaller group had already come up with that. I think, JJ, you've already given the overview of the books.
Mohammed?
Hello?
Hi, I can hear you now, Mohammed.
Yes, I don't know
So
where
you
lost me off.
I lost you. So you were saying I already gave an overview of?
Yeah, I was saying that you gave an overview of the two books. So I will not play, but to give a plate by plate account of the book. But in effect, the two books cover the two themes: one on unfair targeting of the youth of Muslims in the counterterrorism operations, and the other, the discrimination of the Muslim in the provision of services or access to services. And in that case, our choice was education, and the comics play out the narrative as you read it, and we'll be interested in getting feedback from colleagues. And earlier on, if members had lost me, I'd given an account of how the youth had participated. And I was saying that we began with a smaller group. I don't know whether that bit was already gotten.
No, that was fine. You were just gone for about 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. So I think that's all I can say for now. I'm ready to share with the colleagues on any issue they may want me to clarify.
Okay, thank you. The books look very, very nice. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, next I would like to call Reda from Women's Center for Guidance and Legal Awareness in Egypt. Reda has 3 concept books, and I would like to also read a small summary. The first one, it is the religion of treatment or coexistence, and it expresses the culture of acceptance of others and openness to the other so that everyone can live in an atmosphere of tranquility and peace. So this is in the difference of life. No, sorry, this is it's called the religious, I'm sorry. I have it on the next comic book. When we go there, Reda will tell us the title. I don't have it right here. The second one is In the Difference of Life, which is the one you have on the screen. In the Differences of Life, that shows pictures of the first of the Sheikh Hassan Shihata, and he was killed by another group that did not welcome his doctrine in 2013. Therefore, in the workshop, he decided to bring together young people, where the two sides tolerated and painted images that express the tolerance of religions and the necessity of accepting others to live in peace and tranquility. And the third book, it's called We Are All Human, and it expresses what is common in the 3 religions of love, tolerance, and peace, and that the most important thing is good treatment and a good heart. It depicts the religions as worshippers embracing each other, and olive branches and pigeons fly around them to clarify the concept of peace and coexistence. So Reda, I would like to call you to tell us a little bit about your project.
Okay. مساء الخير. شكرا جزيلا للمقدمة العظيمة.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the very nice introduction. Actually, we have different religions, Christians, Muslims, and all the people sit on one negotiation table. It was very difficult, but we did it. We succeeded in gathering them. An important point that I want to refer to with regard to the religions. Sorry to say that the dictatorship, the dictator governments who are far from democracy, they always take their people or make them busy in order. Some of them emphasize the fact that Islam is the only religion, and other religions are considered just like sects or legislations. So they don't care for that. Another group think that all religions came from one source. As you can see on the cover of the book, a hand is holding branches. They represent Islam, Christianity in our country, and there should be acceptance of the others so that everybody can live in tranquility and peace. So the symbol of the hand here, we have Oliver grasping these olive branches, and this picture is repeated differently. That was in book 1, while book 2 was talking about the difference in life. Actually, one of the Shia representative called Shia, he had an opinion about accepting the other, coexisting, and to have inclusion and tolerance. The government encouraged some people to assassinate when he was taken into the street, and they tore his clothes. Even his daughter acknowledged that I am no longer a Shia, because she was afraid that they might have killed her. In preparing that workshop, a number of the assassinate relatives and the daughter of the victim to draw half of the face of the killer, and the second part is half face of Hassan Sha'ata, and the goal was for having tolerance. At the end, they both stand together to draw that common picture. The third book, unfortunately, I lost Mr. Mohammed. Yeah, the third book talks about the coexistence among the religions and the culture of accepting the other. And religion is the way you treat others. Whoever you are, Muslim or a Christian, for you and for all human beings, there should be good treatment. They should have good conducts. I can deal with you, and I am not afraid of being with you, discussing any issue with you. So the foundation here is the good heart, tolerance that can add to us by these religions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reda. Thank you very much. I'm just trying to follow what you're saying, like let everybody also see the images of your 3 comics. And these are the meetings. Reda sent us some pictures of the meetings of the community engagement, youth and religious leaders working together. So those are, we're just showing here. All right, I would like to call Anton, also from IDFI, so Institute for Development of Freedom of Information in Georgia. They are preparing a very big compendium of a very long and successful project that he will tell us about. I've got some images of it to show you, but I'm going to briefly read the summary of the books, of the comic books that I have. It's actually 5 under one banner called The Repressions of 1937 to 1938. And that's also the name of the first comic book. So the comic describes a brief overview of the repressions of 1937 and 38, who signed the consent to the shooting, what methods were used to detain people during the period of mass terror, and what charges were used by special 3-person committees, so-called troikas, and what sentence was used. Second book was called The Story of Prokopi Shigogidze, beatified monk, the story of a Batumi-based priest, Prokopi Shigogidze, who conducted service in 3 languages, was involved in charity work, and was a member of the Georgian Social Democratic Party, and was shot in 1937 on charges of counter-revolutionary activities. Number 3, story of Galaktion Mishladze, repressed teenager. The comic tells the tragic story of Galaktion Mishladze, who was shot at the age 19, while his mother was also found to find the body and buried in a place where no one knew about her grave. Number 4, story of Haisa Shishlo Sabashvili, polyglot and doctor. The comic tells the story of a female doctor who graduated from 4 universities, spoke 7 languages, was a doctor at the Ajara Dermatology and Venereology Dispensary, and was an active member of Malaria Commission. Was shot in 1937 on charges of counter-revolutionary activities. And number 5, the story of Niklia Alexandridi, repressed Greek on national grounds. The story of Niklia Alexandridi, who was repressed on national grounds and married in Georgia, was deported with his relatives in 1949 to Turkestan region. So, Anton, I would like to call you to introduce and present your comic books. I've got some of the images that you sent to us.
Yes, thank you, Ginger. First of all, your pronunciation of complicated Georgian surnames was nearly perfect. And unfortunately, sorry to other members and to other others who drawn and presented their comic books already, that we have not yet finished the full design of this brochure. We want to collect all these small histories and comic books while they are related to one big issue and one big piece of history, repressions of 1937-38, which is very traumatic part of our country's recent history, so they will be collected together. This is one of the images there, the image how children who drew these comic books, actually the beneficiaries of one of the orphanages in Batumi, the second largest city in Georgia, how they drew Stalin. The previous picture was about this, and these are already very qualitative and very well drawn comics about the repressed people. So, and we were very glad that they expressed their views in such a good artistic way. And it had its reason, because these orphans, these children on the upper classes, like 8th, 9th, 10th degrees, they have very frequent drawing classes, and they are very much involved in drawing, in some handcrafting, etc. So they drew this kind of very nice comic books. As Ginger mentioned, these are stories about various people, and with these stories we want to show people that when state becomes an aggressor, and when the state becomes an evil state like Soviet Union was, there is no difference in religion, in how educated you are, in what position you are having in the society and at current time. So all those who were against the system, all of them became executed. The process of creation of these comics were very interesting and very it was super great for us and for children as well. For 1 week, we went to Batumi, this orphanage, and for 3 days we were talking with these children about this part of history of mass oppressions. With our colleagues, historians, also with our Muslim colleague, local society leader who is actively involved in various kind of projects. She told them about their life, about the life of Muslim community in Najara, and these children were very glad and very surprised that, for example, they share similar things, and they are this kind of citizens like Christians are, and we are all very similar, and we are all one in this region. Unfortunately, there is still some approaches that some monks and priests and some religious leaders, Christian religious leaders, consider that only Christians can be Georgians. Like for them, it's like they are drawing a line that Georgian means automatically Christian. But we wanted to show the new generation that that's not true, and we have very great Muslim community, and they are as sometimes better Georgians than some Christian Georgians are. Let's talk like this. And after this, these children expressed all of this on the paper, and they paid attention on the repressions itself, on the religious diversity inside these repressions, and on these things that this evil is evil for everyone, for Muslims, for Christians. So for next few days, we are already in the process of writing introductory word for this brochure. There will be like about 40-50 pages, quite a big brochure into languages, Georgian and English. And our designer, who we hired already, works on this. Works on this brochure. We will have this introductory speech. We will also explain all these comics in English, in Georgian, and I think there will be very nice outcome and very nice final product of it. But unfortunately, we need some more time because of this. Because we started late the project than we expected, and also some of the children sent us their projects later than expected. So until the end of this year or start of the next one, we will have a nice comic book. So actually, this is a reflection of the history lesson, how they drew, besides the master impressions, they also drew how our colleague and our peer assistant of the project, Eka, was providing history lesson to this, to them, to the children. So this is a brief overview of the brochure, and we will provide final product in more understandable language than Georgian for a wider community. And thank you again, Coalition, for this wonderful opportunity. For next time, we would like to expand and make similar projects in other places, especially in other orphanages as well, because it was very, very successful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Anton. Your project was also incredible in terms of how much it grew, how many schools you went to, and like how it started amplifying the project and we are very happy. And, you know, for all of you here that are not with us today, who haven't participated in the process of making the comic books, all the members here have done an heroic work of it was a huge task to produce these comic books in a short time. So there's still some of the work still unfolding, and it will be, once it's ready in December, everything will be shared on the coalition website, the full comic books, and everybody will be able to see everything. Okay, so I will call now our next member, Solidarité échangée pour le développement intégral, CEDI.
Exchange Solidarity.
Sorry, in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I just want to say that the next two members to speak, CEDI and our member from Yemen, will be talking about the process. The coalition had very great difficulties trying to send the funds to both the Democratic Republic of Congo and Yemen, which impacted in the timeline. So they are also in process of developing the projects. They may not have finalized products to share, but they will tell us all where they are with the process and what are the comic books about. So I would like to call Rémi to share with us on behalf of CEDI.
Oui, bonjour à tous.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon all.
Hello.
For CEDI, just like you see in the image, these are the image that shows young people who are busy drawing for the comics. They are with the consultant. You see the consultant with a white t-shirt surrounded with the young people, who is training them on how they should draw for the design of the comics. Here we are with the youth. The project is targeting, I have two targets. The first target is the youth for the design and production of comics. And the second target is for religious leaders who will benefit from the training, the capacity building on the fight against discrimination, which is linked to religion. Now, the image that are in front of us simply shows youth with a consultant just drawing for the comics. Now, the activity here is for the design of the comics. Yes, we had some difficulties that you yourself knows very well. We are at this stage while awaiting so that we may be on time with the drawing, because the means implies that before you produce, you need to have financial means. Unfortunately, but maybe we'll talk about it later again. But this is the step where we are in terms of CEDI. Well, concerning the comics, the first comic is titled "Discrimination of Employees because they belong to a specific religion." In this first comic, we have two sequences. The first sequence shows a teacher who was fired because it doesn't belong to the religious belief of the church where he was teaching. He was replaced by another teacher who, however, was not able to dispense correctly the subject as it was required, according to compared to the former teacher who was discriminated against and fired. What bore the consequence that the teacher themselves, the students themselves, started to discredit the new teacher who was employed because he belongs to that religious belief. That is the first sequence. The second sequence is still at the level of employees, a medical doctor within the religion. They had a medical center and they needed a specialist. Then the specialist came to ask, he was a gynecologist, he came to ask for employment at this medical center. Before he came to ask for the job, before he was employed, they asked him to drop his file. Then looking into his file, they realized that he did not belong to that religious belief. And unfortunately, he could not find a job because he was not of that belief. The consequences was that women who were supposed to come and request special treatment within that clinic did no longer come because the medical doctor who was engaged was not a specialist. That was the consequence. And that is the content of this first comic. The second comic, the consultant will talk about it and will tell us it is so the theme is internal discrimination. Internal discrimination and intra-religious discrimination. Therefore, I'm going to give the floor to my colleague. Yes, we greet you all again. Just as our colleague explained it, the second comic is titled Discrimination, Internal and Intra-Religious Discrimination, where they are showing discrimination that was conducted in two sequences. The first one is that understanding the intra-religious theme, it means that there is a discrimination that's happening among the members belonging to the same religious organization. Here they are showing us how the member of a religious confession are discriminating against each other because of some realities that they are experiencing. Now, the second sequence is that in that comic, they are talking to us about discrimination, which is interreligious, meaning here they are talking about two different religious beliefs or more than one that is discriminating against each other according to the truth. Of course, there are some of these confessions that think they are more spiritual than others, and others who claim to be modern. So they discriminate against each other, and that produces there are consequences. So that in the first sequence, the discrimination between believers or believers of the same religious belief don't manage to stay together and collaborate, because some are thinking that they are richer than others, and they think that they cannot stay and collaborate with the poor, and there are others who think that they are more spiritual, who cannot go into collaboration with those that they deem to be carnals, and so on and so forth. So for the second sequence, we have religious confessions, the members of a religious belief that are able to swear at others who belong to another religious organization. And at the end of the day, some of them even manage to fight. So it is a little bit that in brief. That is briefly what I had as content for these two cartoons. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
merci pour votre
where you are with your project. I will now move to our last participant today, who is Future Partners Foundation for Development in Yemen. And I would like to call Abdulillah Salam to talk to us about the two comic books that he's developing.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you. I should thank those who preceded me from Uganda, Egypt, Georgia, and Ms. Gigi for the representation about a summary of the comic books, and my stories in my books look like the one whom we have seen. Actually, I am in the Future Foundation. I thank you for these activities. Actually, there are some, we do our best to catch the time, and we can present what we can. And I apologize, the stories are incomplete because last week we finished a workshop, and tomorrow or the day after tomorrow we were planning to organize a workshop to meet the religious leaders, the social leaders, to discuss our products, our comic books drafts. But due to the fact that Yemen is passing difficult times and holiday, the work was postponed till next Monday. And we hope to finish it as scheduled. After that, we will continue the discussion with the religious men and social leaders, discuss the content of the comic books. Actually, in the previous workshop, Ms. Gigi did her best to support all of us and to prepare, as they asked, to prepare two different stories. The first story that talks about Dr. Dalila, medical Dr. Dalila. It is a realistic story. It was taken from the community, and some of the events were edited to avoid having a typical story, and in order to make the stories compatible to what is going on in Yemen these days. So that doctor belongs to a family that belongs to a sect in a religion. Well, Dr. Jalila was a matured or adult woman. She was very clever in the school. She wanted to serve the community in a way or another. When she graduated from the high school, joined the university, became a doctor, she preferred to return to her village to serve her people there. And as you know, in the villages, they lack the medical services. When she returned to a village to establish what looks like a health center, and she started to serve all the sects of the different religions. In the village, Dr. Imad appeared, who was competitive to that Dalila, Dr. Dalila. He started to invest in the area. Jalila's humanitarian work was affecting Dr. Imad's investment and businesses. He started to spread rumors and started to bullying against Dr. Jalila, and he raised so many sectoral issues. He claimed that Dr. Jalila is doing missionary, she had missionary tasks in the village, and he was gathering the community and encouraging the community to attack her. So the conflict started between good and evil, conflict between the character of Dr. Jalila and Dr. Imad. The community was divided into two parts, those who support Dr. Jalila irrespective of her religious affiliation, while the second part of the community were affiliated to Dr. Imad, who was doing some good humanitarian works. So the matter or the conflict was escalated till one day Dr. Jalida, she was affected by COVID-19 that invaded the whole world and Yemen as well. We just wanted to document this pandemic in our story and to employ it in the religious conflict. Meanwhile, how Dr. Jalila helped in resolving a conflict. Actually, it was COVID-19 that made the community get shocked by the death of Dr. Jalila, and they started to think that they used to get benefit from the services of Dr. Jalila. When she passed away, they started to feel that they have missed the support and assistance and all the humanitarian assistance should be provided away from sectoral conflicts, religious conflicts. That was the first story. The second story talks about, or the title, which is the Helm of Extremism. This book talks about son was born in a family which was extremist, and that son grew up in that extremist family who feeding that child on extremism till the son started to be typical of his family, that led him to commit a crime against one of the members of another religion. As a result, he was in prison, and in the prison he met a very good religious man who started to educate that imprisoned young man who was extremist, and he started to correct his behavior and change his ideas, and he succeeded in making change his attitude towards the community. The criminal, the prisoner started to think of coexistence, tolerance, that changed his behavior inside the prison, and he was released before he finished the imprisonment period. He returned to his family with a completely different character, and he became a social instructor, and he was educating the local community on the importance of tolerance and to stay away from hatred and the coexistence, and he was improved very well. So he started to contribute in melting all the conflicts in his community.
Il a commencé à contribuer dans sa communauté
by making the community aware of coexistence and building a healthy community away from hatred. These were two stories. We tried our best to gather all these parts to use them in the Yemenian community, and actually there are other stories which are really sensitive. We didn't want to tackle such issues because Yemen is passing very difficult time now, and we don't want anybody of our team to be jeopardized or to be subject to any danger or a threat. And next week, I hope that we can finish the workshop, which I talked about, to meet social leaders, religious leaders, to discuss the content of the stories. And we hope to upload them to the coalition sites of conscience. I do thank everybody here for their ideas and opinions and their patience in following me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abdulillah. The stories are really, really incredible, and the fact that they're grounded in community is really strong. And we look forward to seeing your comic books taking shape and CDs as well. And we hope that we have turned the corner on the issue of the sending of funds again to both your countries. So praying. Okay.